Hello, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Profile Matters. Hi, guys. Oh my gosh, it's been so long. You guys are probably like, oh my god, this guy's still alive. I am alive. I do apologize. I've been gone for so long. I actually had some medical stuff going on for a little while there. I'm okay now. Everything's good. Might be having some surgery a little bit later, but for the most part, I'm okay. And of course, we've got a hurricane heading here towards North Carolina, probably. So we're like trying to hunker down for that. So it's just been one thing after another. I'm like, oh, give me a break. And of course, I'm trying to make sure we get you guys good listening material and good interviewers. And of course, sometimes that's a hit and miss depending on who wants to be on, who doesn't, who decides they want to be on but then cancels last minute. Oh, it's a nightmare. And of course, on the top of that, I am doing a little bit of investigative journalism on a certain case back here in North Carolina. That is a big hit home for me. My grandpa used to talk about the case when I was a kid. I won't go into it right now, just suffice to say that we will cover one of our episodes here soon. Probably like a seasonal type finale, although it's weird because you guys are like, probably season finale, isn't that usually when they have consecutive episodes, not one every 2 or 3 months? And again, I apologize for that. It's man, life really just has a way of kicking the crap out of you sometimes. It really does. But yeah, so I'm super excited. Tonight we got Dr. Catherine Gneiting is back. We're going to be discussing personality profiles, so I'm super excited about that. I actually took a part in the personality profiles test a little while back when we were talking about it, and we'll go over my scores and everything like that. So I hope you guys are really interested in everything that's about to be happening. So she'll actually be in a couple of more episodes. I don't want to get into it right now, but I will tell you a little bit more about it later. Just know that she will be around for a little bit longer. We'll have her in another episode after this, and I'll explain what's happening a little bit later. Sorry, I'm hinting to what I want to tell you guys about, but I'm withholding the actual truth. So everything I am saying about Dr. Catherine Gneiting, you may not want to believe because things may change. But I do promise you this one. She is for sure going to be in the next episode. And everything else after, I'll just allude to that a little later. Alright, guys. Well, we'll go ahead and get this episode going and slice this open, start poking around. Alright. Well, we are back with Dr. Catherine Gneiting.
Hey, Cameron.
Hello. How are you?
I am great. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm awake and alert.
Awesome.
All right.
I'll put my glasses on so I can hear you.
All right. So, well, today we are going to be doing this episode called Dr. Personality, and we're going to be talking about personalities. Mm-hmm. So my first question for you is, of course, what is a personality?
Well, that's kind of a funny question. When you send them to me, it's like, what's a personality? It's like, well, it's who you are. I mean, it's your characteristics, your, what makes you who you are, your idiosyncrasies, your, whatever it is you want to do. I mean, I've never had anybody ask me what's a personality.
When I was doing it, Jess said, she was like, you should start off with just the most random question. She said, and I want it to be, she said, just simple, the most simplistic, but like, it's like, well, what is a dog?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, it's a dog. But, I'm sure there's some people out there
people
like...
who don't know what it is.
And I guess what the biggest thing was like, if there are people who don't have personalities, they don't know, I mean, I imagine they would probably be like, well, what is a personality? I don't know if I even have one.
Well, everyone has a personality. That was one of your other questions. Mm-hmm. You just for your listening audiences, you gave me the questions ahead of time, and what that was one of your questions. Mm-hmm. Does everyone have one? And yes, everybody has one, because if you look at it, I made some, copies here of, see on the circle, if, for you that are listening, if you draw a circle on a piece of paper, and then up on the upper left-hand corner, it will bisect it and dissect it, so you have 4 pieces. On the upper left-hand corner, you put choleric. That's a personality who's very, I call them the general. They're, they will order you about all the time, people like that. Patton, people who are just, really a bit of a pain in the butt. Anyway, on the upper right-hand corner, you're going to put the sanguine, and that's a party waiting to happen. They're just, everything's fun, everything's bubbly, we have no cares, you think of the bubble-headed bleach blonde, that's a sanguine. And then on the bottom left-hand side is the melancholic. Those are people who are, they're very anxious, worried, things have to be orderly. That's what makes them feel comfortable and secure. When things are out of order, they kind of get all bent out of shape. And then on the bottom left-hand side is the phlegmatic. These are people who are just, they're very lazy. They're also very good friends because they don't put any demands on you. They're just there. They're, very laid back, golden retriever type, So everyone has a personality. It's just you're going to fall within, this circle. You're going to have a little more in one area and a little less in the other, and, whatever. And, so I hope that answered your question.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Are these types of people who, when we were talking about personalities, are these type of people who have these personalities that are less than, I guess you would say, desirable, like what you would probably want to have? Mm-hmm. Does it get to the extreme? Mm-hmm.
Well, yes, they do. That's what we had talked about in the previous interview about the DSM. That's the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. The reason why we have that as a profession is that if I'm going to bill insurance companies, they need to know what it is. And you have what's called 5 axes. Right now under the DSM-5, they've done away with the axes, but for these purposes, I think it works better. Axis 1 is just mental. If you're having some kind of mental retardation, anxiety, depression, something that's mentally wrong with you. Axis 2 is your personality disorders, and they only become a disorder when you're having problems functioning. So if you look on these, if you're really, see, as this example, I'll say under the choleric, some people call it choleric, some people call it choleric. I go back and forth myself because it depends on how I'm saying it. Under the choleric, they're excitable, egocentric, and exhibitionist, impulsive, histrionic, active. Other descriptors would be, power mongers, overbearing. In one of the other personalities, you have what's called the DISC, and let me pull that up. DISC calls them demanding, determined, decisive, doing. These are all people who are that choleric kind of personality. They're overbearing. When this becomes excessive, such as, a husband and wife, and the husband is demanding and overbearing, and he becomes, domestic violence. That's kind of a problem. So that's when you would diagnose them on the axis 2, when it becomes a problem. I feel like I'm giving you too long of an answer.
No, these are good. These are good. More explanation is better, because especially for the people who actually, who understand the terminology right off the bat, and they're like, okay, I get it. Not saying anybody's stupid, but, there's always that different degree of people who, especially if it's something they don't really, get.
And unfortunately, you can look this stuff up on Google, and, you might be like, oh, that, what about this? I got this off of there. I got this off of there. I'm sorry, go to school and actually get some understanding on this. This isn't just something that you can, I've been studying this for well over 20 years. And then I went to school, so, this isn't something that is just, I can just pull this out of a hat. I mean, I've really studied this for a really, really long time. on, the different personalities. But this is not it's not a definitive. I mean, you're not just, oh, you're a choleric and that's all you are. I think I'll put you in prison. No. there are certain days when I'm kind of off the hook. Certain days I'm not. Certain situations, and everything kind of flows, ebbs and flows. And then, of course, you have, PMS for women. And there are some times when they are acting like an ex-murderer. That doesn't mean that they have a personality disorder. That just means that they are emotionally high-strung at that time.
Guys have it too.
They do, but, I wasn't going to throw them under the bus like that.
We have it too. We have it too. We all have our good days and bad days.
Right.
Can you explain to us what a personality profile is?
Well, a personality profile is I've started, kind of telling you, in the last 5 minutes. I was kind of jumping the gun, actually.
That's all right.
Just because I think it's fascinating.
It is.
A personality profile is actually what happens when you have all of these different areas. This actually started, I have these lovely pictures. I'm sorry you viewers on the radio can't see these pictures, but this actually was, in ancient Greek and Roman physicians believed that when you have a physical issue, it was actually part of your personality. So they actually came up with the first 4, being blood, and that was produced exclusively by the liver. Yellow bile, which was thought to produce aggression, and that would have been the choleric, the blood being the sanguine. The black bile, which is the word melancholy derives from the Greek meaning black bile, and this is the belief that excess black bile causes depression. That's the melancholy. And then phlegm, which is not, it's not mucus. That's not it. It's more of something from, I think they said it was from the gallbladder. Wait a minute. Phlegm or pituitary secretion. But this was how they started it back in Greek philosophy, and this you can look up online. I wasn't around back in ancient Greece, but this is how they started it, and I just thought it was kind of funny about this picture of the phlegmatic. They look kind of a little lazy and happy and kind of ooh.
Yeah.
And this is the choleric.
Oh wow.
And they do look kind of mean, and the melancholy just looks really sad and anxious, and this is a sanguine. They're just looking very happy.
Yeah. Party time.
Yeah, but what they felt was wrong is that if you had a phlegmatic temperament, you should avoid cucumbers, lettuce, spinach, fish, pork, and veal, and eat choleric foods. I just thought that was kind of funny.
That is kind of funny.
It's like, really, okay. So they thought your personality was linked to medicinal, and that you could fix it by eating certain foods or acting certain ways, or going to certain areas. Go to the dry area, or go to the beach, or and I just thought, it was kind of funny. I'd like to hear that from somebody who's a sadistic personality. Why don't you go to the beach? Anyway, sadistic personalities are the ones who are really nasty, dangerous kind of people, and no amount of beach going is going to help them.
Oh, when you were saying that about going to the beach, and we'll get into the meme thing real quick. There was a meme they had on Facebook, and it was, somebody was saying how they were excited because Friday the 13th is on October, is in October this year. So it had this picture of a guy dressed as Jason with the hockey mask on, and he's swinging the machete, dancing down the walkway on the river, and he's dancing with all these kids and stuff.
Oh my goodness!
That's one of the kids.
Are they playing "Singing in the Rain" in the background?
It was like music playing, but it was so fast, and then when you said it, I was just kind of like, that it's not a good combination.
Yeah, no, it's not. But
oh my goodness!
Now I forgot what your question was. Okay, what are the personality profiles? Okay, so sorry, I'm getting way off track.
It's okay.
But in personality profiles, there's several different kinds. I mean, that's how they started, was the 4, and several of these different types. There's the DISC, DISC, I can't remember what they stand for, but, I put everything into the 4 of choleric, sanguine, melancholy, and phlegmatic. And after looking at all of these different personality profiles, because this is what I did my dissertation on for my PhD, was on personality profiles. And so I was, studying all of these, and it's like, they're all the same thing. All of them. I was like, oh my goodness. So they just call them different names. So you have the adult children of alcoholics, ACOA, and they have what's called the hero, the scapegoat, the lost child, and the mascot. Well, the hero is predominantly a choleric personality. They're successful, they're super responsible, they think they're special. Sometimes they need approval and all this stuff. The scapegoat is the sanguine. They're kind of defiant, kind of withdrawn, at times chemically dependent. Isn't that exciting? But these are party waiting to happen. The lost child is melancholy. They're withdrawn, they're aloof, they're overweight sometimes, quiet, distant, they're super independent, but they have issues with rejection. Well, this is melancholy. They're just having these issues. The mascot is the phlegmatic. They're kind of a clown. They like being cute. They're humorous. They're kind of fragile. They like attention. What a good friend that would be.
Yeah.
The phlegmatic. They're all the same thing. And then when you look at Myers-Briggs, have you heard of Myers-Briggs? Myers-Briggs was a mother and daughter. I'm assuming they're both psychologists. I haven't looked in too much into, who they were, just the actual test itself. And they broke it up into 16. And that's that, INTP, ENTP, ESFJ. A lot of businesses will use these to find out how you process information, judging, sensing, perceiving, all these things. So they're using 16, because that's the 4 all mixed together, of what it is. So, yeah. And then you have, there's another one, the Enneagram, which that one I haven't studied a lot, but that does 9. But the one that I do is I actually created one because I wanted it to be based on the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. I included the DSM-3, that was a long time ago, and the DSM-4, because the one they're currently using, the DSM-5, only has 10 personality profiles. Well, I thought the other ones needed to be used too. So I created my own, and that's what it's based on.
Well,
I hope that answered your question.
that answered it perfectly.
Okay. I think I answered 2 or 3 at the same time.
And it also, I was going to say that also answered what goes into creating a personality profile.
Right.
There we
go. Yeah.
go.
It's pretty intense, actually. I don't know how long it took, these other people to create this, but I know it took me a pretty long time. But I also, I studied Florence Littauer had a personality, it's called Personality Plus. That's actually a fun one, and you can look that up online, and you can do it online. And then what they'll tell you is you'll have the 4, choleric, sanguine, but what she does is she takes a blend of your primary and your secondary, and then, like what'll happen is you'll have, the majority of the time you'll act like a choleric, overbearing, and, but then you have the secondary one. And so that blend, will make up what you are. So you might be a sanguine choleric. And when I first took the test, I was pretty much off the scale choleric and off the scale sanguine. So I was like, obviously I'm going to order you to have fun. So that's kind of fun. But I think that when I built mine, or when I created it, there are other situations where you're going to be somebody else. So I took that 1 and 2 and made it your number 1, and then your 3 and 4 made that your number 2, and then your 5 and 6 was your 3rd one, and your 7 and 8 being your 4th one. So I don't know what your other personalities are. I know what your primary is. I can pretty much tell that almost immediately when I meet somebody. Not all the time. I mean, there are people who are very sneaky, but for the most part I can. And, so like, I know we were going to talk about the personality profile I gave you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had all 4 of these.
Yep, I sure
things
did.
there. Did you want to go into that next?
Yes,
Oh,
please.
okay.
I took part of this, the questionnaire for the personality test, and how many questions was it?
107.
107. And I remember when I got it, I was like, it's a lot of questions. And I'm sitting there going through, and then there are moments where I would, on like 2 of the questions, where I circled it, but then I'm like, oh, I circled the wrong one. And then I went back and I fixed it. I'm like, I wonder if she thinks that I'm fixing this.
Am I trying to fix this question?
I'm trying to fix this question.
Is she analyzing me through my work?
So, but when I gave it in, I was, I didn't know how long it would take, and it was, a couple days, and I heard back.
Yeah, it's pretty fast. When once I get, of course, it depends on how much time I have. It just happened I wasn't like slammed with clients that time, but I like to I like to give the result rather quickly, because then I have it fresh in my mind when I talk to you as to why I'm giving you a personality profile. Because I don't give it to everybody. I just if I need to find out what your second and third personality is, so that you can see that there's positives and negatives. I didn't want this to be like all negative, like, oh, you're like really, you got issues. we should get you some medication, but
we need to get you on that stat.
right. But your primary one. Okay, what happens is you take the test of 107 questions, and then I will score it, but I don't want you to score it because. And I mix up all the questions because you'll see that there's a pattern. So I'm not going to ask you all the same questions because they're like, oh yeah, that's me. Oh yes. And you try and diagnose yourself. Well, I don't want you to do that. I wanted this to be a complete surprise to you as well as it is to me as to what it is. So your primary is that you're a little. Are you okay if we share this?
Yeah,
You're
please,
sure?
Bob.
Okay.
Yep, I'm sure. Go
Okay, I
ahead.
just want to make sure. Okay, your first one is that you're a little persnickety. And the positive side of that is that you work very hard and you have single-minded intensity, and you certainly do. You're very dedicated to this podcast and to finding the truth wherever that's going to take you, and yeah, you're pretty good on
I'll
that.
try.
The negative side is that you can display some symptoms of perfectionism that drives other people crazy.
Oh yeah.
Might interfere with your ability to complete a task because you're getting so focused on getting this done that it becomes overwhelming, and you can't do that all. Okay, but your secondary one is that you're very seducing. But as you can see from the numbers, your first number was 29. Second one is at a 19. That's a 10-point drop. So it's not like you're really having really bad problems being seducing. And seducing isn't bad. That's just that you're very sensual and demonstrative with physical and emotional affections. Well, you're very emotional about what you're doing here, and you're emotional about your job and anything that you do. You're very passionate about it. It doesn't mean that you're going out trying to seduce people all the time. That's not what that means. It just means that you're very passionate. I tried to think of some funny, quirky little names.
I am not a gigolo.
Right, no. If you're listening to Jessica. Yeah, if you're listening, Jessica, no, he's not a gigolo. But the negative side is that you might have been hyperactive in school, attention seeking, maybe sexually provocative. I don't know if that was you. I know you, when you were in school, I didn't see that. I don't think that was you. And sometimes they can become emotionally and act dramatic in order to get attention. But this is a pretty low point. Your score is 19. You're not like, now if this was a 30, that'd be a problem. But not a real problem, but this was pretty low.
Yeah.
This was higher. You're more persnickety. You're not at 28 being seducing. You've got a good balance. And then your third one is suspicious, but that was at an 18. It's only 1 point below what your seducing was. That just means that, and then your fourth one is at a 17. All 4 of these scales, you had 2 17s, which were then 2 parts in a number 4. But that just means that these were all very close together. So a lot of times you're going to act persnickety, but then maybe at work, you may be this, maybe with Jessica, you're like, persnickety, or seducing. Maybe when you're in a new situation, doing other interviews, you might be suspicious, which was that third one.
You kind of adapt.
Yeah, you adapt to what it is that you need to do. And then the two numbers that you had at the fourth, I hope this is coming across to you listening people. I feel like I'm sounding very confusing. So you should come and see me and take the test yourself.
We actually had one of our listeners, she put a comment out there, she goes, in giant capital bold letters, and I had to print it to bring it to you, she said, but I'll show it to you. She said, I want to take her test.
Oh, well, tell her to, she needs to come by our office, and we can have you take the test, or I'm trying to figure out how to get this so you can take it, like, online. But I'm not computer savvy, so I'm working on that. I got a couple of people who are giving me some ideas on how to do that.
Cool.
The problem is I don't want you just getting the answers because it sounds very depressing. You're like, oh my goodness, what is this? And I don't want you to feel that way. It's supposed to be a positive kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Not negative. And, you might be thinking, oh, is there something wrong with me? And no, there's not. There's positives and negatives. That's why I put that on both. But your last, number 4, was 2 of them. That was a general. Now, this was, the sadistic person. But the positive is that they're going to take responsibility, and when the need arises, and you're going to appear to be competent and accomplished. It's not always negative, but there is negative. Sometimes these hard-charging individuals appear at first glance to be a good leader, but then they kind of run over people, and they don't really care. And at times we can all be like that.
True.
These are not all bad. Your other number 4 was gullible, and these are people who are very in tune to their own feelings and belief systems, and they're just like, I don't care if it sounds kind of weird. I'm this is me. The negative side is that sometimes they can be a little bizarre or quirky, and they might have problems in social situations. But that's what makes up a personality profile of, the one that I created. That's it.
Yeah.
That was a lot, sorry.
No, that's good. I loved it. That was my favorite taking that test, actually. I learned a lot. I mean, it's easy to diagnose yourself, but to do it correctly is a big deal. So, I mean, you can't sit, it's like what you were saying before, you can't just sit there and say, oh, I've got this, and this.
Right.
Because you really don't. But when you get the outside perspective of somebody to sit down and who knows you, and has seen enough of you to form not so much that opinion, but kind of objectively take it's almost like when I don't want to make it sound like I'm an animal or anything, but it's like when you're observing an animal in the wild or something, you're taking notes and you're seeing, well, why did they do that? Why did they do this?
Right.
And all of that information being compiled into one thing, and then it coming out to display this, I want to say I'm an artist by nature, so I want to say this painting of who I am. It was kind of cool. Like I've got mine at home, or I've got mine with me. But I would tell Jess, I was like, I want to frame mine. She goes, really?
Well,
I was like, because it's true.
Did you feel like it was accurate?
So accurate.
Okay.
So accurate.
Okay.
And I mean, there's always things that when you catch yourself and you're like, wish I could change that. But anybody who's listening, I want to tell you, if you got a personality that or something about yourself that you might not like, and you try so hard to change it, but you can't, it shouldn't make you feel subconscious or bad, because some people, you have a personality, and that's just how you are. And, anybody who's out there trying to change yourself to be with another person, one thing I've learned is, you can't always scratch the surface, because sometimes you'll just find more surface.
That's true. But, that is a good point. A lot of people are there are some people who are of the opinion that, okay, this is my personality, I'm set, I can't, no. This is, you married me like this, what's wrong with you? That's it, you knew that from the beginning or whatever. You can change your personality, and you can adjust, but this is what makes you most comfortable. That doesn't mean that you can't adjust and become more outgoing if you want to be outgoing. You can. Sales teams have been doing this for years. They teach you how to go out and be more successful as a salesperson. But when you come back to yourself, to your home, to your place of rest, this is who you are, your persnickety. You want things orderly, whatever. You can find out, I just had a thought and I was trying to form it in my head. You can figure out if you're, introverted or extroverted. If you ask yourself the question, if I were to drop you off on a desert island, how would you feel? Would that make you happy or would that make you sad? And a person who is introverted, they'd be like a desert island, nobody around, yay, I would love it. I could stay there for 6 months, no problem. Myself, I'm very extroverted. I'd go on a desert island, and after about 10 minutes, I was like, well, who do I have to talk to?
Wilson!
Yes, where's my place? I know! It's like, how did he do
that?
Exactly. Yeah, you'll start naming trees. You'll talk to hedgehogs and spiders and whatever, because you're an extroverted person. And it's not a bad thing. If you're with somebody who's trying to say that, well, why aren't you more like me? Or, why are you like that? Well, you're like that because that's who you are, and it's not a bad thing. There are positives and negatives to every personality.
Oh, yeah. I myself, I might do okay on the island, but I would definitely talk to myself because I talk to myself now.
And that is very healthy.
And I've heard that. My grandma used to say, she's like, why, her parents and her parents before that would do that. And they would say the same things. They were like, well, that's a good thing that you talk to yourself. How they knew that, I don't know, because none of them were doctors or
Because they were
psychiatrists.
very smart.
But they were like, she would call it conversations with interesting people.
Exactly. Sometimes you're the smartest person in the room, and you need to...
It's so true though sometimes.
Yeah, but it's very healthy to talk to yourself because that is, actually that's all I do in therapy. I'm talking to somebody, I'll ask them, I'm a catalyst. And I will ask you a couple of questions. As they are speaking, you can see the little light come on and they are like, oh, okay, because they are speaking it out loud. When you say something, you hear it in your ears and it hits your brain at a different spot. I think we mentioned that on the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very important for you to do it because when you just think it in your head, it's going so fast and you really can't, grasp the thought. They're just flying all over the place. Reminds me of Harry Potter with the flying keys, Like, grab it! That was the first one in case you have not seen Harry Potter.
Yes. I always picture my thoughts like I think it is in one of the movies, I can't remember for sure, but like the books where they're changing shelves.
Yes.
It's almost like that. Like,
the staircases or the book?
Because you have like, some people say they use like what they call their memory palace where they go in and you can find things in the filing cabinets and stuff. That's how people categorize stuff. Some people really go into it, like they're really detailed about it, but me, I'm just like, I picture it's just a giant cluttered mess of papers, and I'm digging through like, okay, where did I put that paper at again?
Right.
Which is probably exactly how accurate my life is anyways, because I have files at home, but they're in no particular order. So, the last question I have in here. You're currently working on a book.
Yes, I am.
Can you tell us about the book or a little bit about it?
Well, it keeps changing because it's pretty much about personality profiles. But as I started writing it, I'm really only interested in the first 4, the cholerics, because that's all about the people who are kind of psychopaths, antisocials, because I'm interested in making sure that to keep people safe, to stay away from them, and I don't want to be conned by a con man in any way, shape, or form. I just started reading a book, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's all about confidence men, and that's what they used to call people who were conning you, and the whole thing is about, do you trust me to hold your watch and give it back to you tomorrow? Well, how much do you trust me? let me have your watch. And that's how they'd con people. And you actually want to prove that they actually are trustworthy. So we kind of fall into it ourselves. And I was like, oh, that's kind of scary, so I need to read this book. Because it's, if that is in fact the case, what is it we are doing to walk into a situation where somebody's going to con us in any way, shape, or form?
Mm-hmm.
In business, in supermarkets, in your workplace, dating, relationships of any kind.
Buying insurance.
That's
a big one lately.
Right.
Choosing the right bank.
Choosing the right bank, exactly, yes. Let's not go with those ones that are scammers. But that's pretty much, I'm kind of at a standstill with the book. But it's going to be about personality profiles, but I'm pretty much sticking with the first 4, because every time I try and go into depth into more of the other 10 that there are, I'm really not that interested in it, and I just kind of get hung up, because this is where I've done all my research is on, the first 4. They're sadistic, histrionic, antisocial, those ones. Seducing. But yeah, I'll have to keep you updated on how that's going.
Yes, because we all want a copy of that.
Yes, it's going to be very exciting. At least I hope so. I hope it's going to be exciting.
Well, that was pretty much the first one. So
Okay.
thank you so much for being here on this episode, and we'll
Great.
see you back here. We're going to have her back for another episode,
Mm-hmm.
but we're going to take a break, and then we'll come back. So anybody who
Okay.
is who's listening real time, or I shouldn't say real time because this isn't exactly real time, but anybody who listens as soon as this is posted up, don't worry, the second one will be up pretty much right after.
Yeah, because you said you wanted to do another one on.
Yep,
on
2 separate.
What were you calling that one?
This one is called Sexy Psychopaths, Myths or Reality.
Yes.
So
and that's pretty much what the book's going to be about. Maybe
Yep. I was
I'll
like,
call
okay.
it that.
All right. Well, then we'll go ahead and break, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
Okay.
All right.
Great. Oh, you mean you wanted to...
Well, I am back. Wow, what a cool episode, right? Got to kind of delve into your brain there a little bit. Taking a step away from just the true crime part of it and kind of delving into the psychology. Everything we talk about here, just remember, guys, it is true crime and psychology related. I wanted to kind of keep it an open field because the two kind of coincide at some points. If we officially really know what a bad person is thinking, that's where psychology comes into play. That's why we talked about Dr. Godwin in the second episode. You named it the forensic psychologist because psychology is a big deal in what we do as humans. So naturally, it's going to play a big part in what happens in a lot of crime too. So keeping that in mind, naturally we're going to have her back. The next episode, of course, as you heard, is called Sexy Psychopaths, Myths or Reality. Now, we were going to do that right then and there. We decided we were going to hold off a little. We went ahead and we talked about some stuff, but we decided we wanted to hold off because there was some really cool stuff, good news that we wanted to share with you guys, but we didn't want to share it yet. We wanted to wait until we solidified some plans and stuff and whatnot. So, pretty exciting though, right? I also do want to go ahead and toss this out there in case you guys don't know. Dr. Godwin will probably not be appearing on our show anymore. Not because he wouldn't want to. He'll be mostly just doing Up and Vanished and whatnot, and we completely support him and his work and everything like that. I talk to Dr. Godwin all the time. He's a great person, a great man, just a wonderful person to know, and I'm really glad I met him and that he pushed me forward to keep going with my podcast and keep doing what I'm doing. So, we want to give a shout out to him and hope he's doing well. And also, he's got a lot of things coming down the pike. So wish him luck and wish him, happiness and staying safe during his adventures and stuff out where he's going and places that he's going to and interviews he's doing. So we want to always keep our other podcasters and our other true crime fans and family in our minds and thoughts and prayers. So That, and if you guys would like to also say a prayer for us out here in North Carolina, please do. We don't know what's going to happen, and we're praying for everybody out in Texas for what they're going through, and anybody who's in Florida, and anybody else who will get hit by this hurricane that's about to come. And then, of course, there's 2 other ones brewing. It's like, oh my God, can we not get a break? Oh, these hurricanes are killing us. So, but anyways, so I wanted to wrap this up on a positive note. Dr. Catherine Gneiting will be back on the next episode. Sorry it wasn't aired back to back like we originally planned, but like I said, some other stuff took precedence. So I hope you guys are glad that I'm back, and I am glad to be back. And I do not plan on going away. In fact, I do try to be here more often than not. And unfortunately, like I said, this past month, some stuff is just kind of month or so, I should say, just kind of took over. So, but that, as they say, I'm sure you guys will agree, health does come first. But we're trying. Anyways, I hope that you guys have a great evening. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I can't wait to have you guys here back next week. Will probably be when we upload it. If it's not next weekend, it'll be the weekend, the week after that, but it'll be up here within the next 2 weeks, so just keep an eye out and an ear out for that. And again, it's called Sexy Psychopaths, Myths or Reality, and guest starring, of course, the wonderful Dr. Catherine Gneiting. Alright, well, I'm gonna go and let you guys go. Hope you have a great evening, and I will talk to you guys here again on Profile Matters. Have a good night, guys.